I'll just start by telling you who we are. Most of you will know us by now, but I'm Annie Everall, one of the directors of Authors Aloud, and my co-director, Naomi, is here. Give a wave. Bev Humphrey is also with us from Authors Aloud, who makes sure, I like to think she beats Zoom into submission and makes sure it behaves on the night, but does a lot more with us as well. I'd also like to introduce and welcome Harriet Venn and Sophia Dryden. If you'd like to give a wave, they are Katie and Jen's publicists from Penguin Random House, who have published these two fantastic books. I'm really glad that you've all been able to join us tonight to celebrate their publication. And I'd like to give a really special welcome to Amy Pudney from Sara Village School in Saudi Arabia. Have no idea what time it is over there, Amy, but it's lovely to have you with us tonight. So the shape of the event, I'm going to be chatting with Jen and Katie, and then towards the end, as usual, we'll have sort of time for questions from you guys. So if you have got questions or comments, just pop them in the chat box and we can pick them up towards the end of the evening. Also let you know that you can order a signed book-plated copy of both books through our wonderful bookseller H&H Spalding through the order line at a price of £7.50 for The Accidental Diary of Bug, £8.50 for The Extremely Embarrassing Life of Lottie Brooks, or a special price of £13 for both of them. So go on, treat yourself to both. Bev will put Bev's already put the order line into the chat box for you. So at this point, can I ask you to all switch off your mics and your cameras, and I'll welcome and introduce Jen and Katie to you. Okay. Let's start with Jen. Jen Carney is an author and an illustrator living up in Lancashire with her wife, 3 children and an array of animals, which I'd love to know what they are at some point, Jen. She likes writing, obviously. She likes doodling, she likes walking, and she likes playing games. Her favourite colour is green, and like Billy in The Accidental Diary of Bugs, she loves dismantling biscuits. And I think you've probably got an army of followers on that one in this audience, Jen. She's a big believer in the power of funny books, and she wrote the Bug series to make people laugh while reflecting modern, slightly bonkers families like her own. One of the reviews of Bug really made me laugh. It was from a parent who said, "I have a complaint for Jen Carney. My daughter was cooking dinner last night." That's not the complaint, by the way. All was going smoothly until she picked up The Accidental Diary of Bug. She was so engrossed that she forgot about the grill and set off the smoke alarms and burnt the toast. So, audience, be warned. Katie Kirby is a writer and illustrator who lives by the sea in Hove with her husband, 2 sons, and her dog, Sasha. She's got a degree in advertising and marketing, and after spending several years working in London media agencies, which she says basically involved hanging out in fancy restaurants and pretending to know what she was talking about, she had some children and she decided to start a blog called Hurrah for Gin about the gross injustice of it all. She said she started the blog on a whim one night, probably while under the influence of gin after a bad day. She'll be the first to admit she struggled with many aspects of parenting, but she's firmly of the opinion if you don't laugh about the challenges, you'll cry. Through Hurrah for Gin, she tries to give a real and humorous account of parenting young children in all its glory and with all its warts. She hopes people enjoys reading it and says, this made me smile. "Please, I do not do promotions or reviews of any kind on my blog or social media channels. Quote, unless you are a company offering 5-star holiday, all-inclusive holidays to the Maldives." And then I do, which appealed to me. Lottie is being talked about as having the appeal of Georgia Nicholson, The Dork Diaries, and Wimpy Kid. I loved it. And for me, it was actually reminded me very much of Judy Blume, who I think led the way in terms of this kind of writing for kids of that age. And particularly one of my favourites of hers, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. And as one 10-year-old girl who read it said, I enjoyed this book more than you could imagine. I found it extremely funny, but also extremely relatable, because Lottie's life could probably relate to a lot of 12-year-old girls now. And there was about 6 exclamation marks after the quote. So anyway, it's my pleasure to welcome both of you this evening. And I thought I'd start with just asking you to talk to us about, tell us a little bit about your background and how you both got into writing. Who wants to go first?
Shall I start?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that introduction. That was lovely. My background's quite varied. So I've done a lot of travelling. And I've had quite a lot of different jobs. So I've been an actor, and I've worked in a shoe shop, and I've been a primary school teacher. And more recently, I've worked for some different charities. And really, I got into writing when I was about 7, and I've not really stopped since. And I've actually brought something to show you, which is a book that I found in the loft that I kept from when I was that age. And this is the first book that I wrote with all the different chapters and whatnot. And quite interestingly, it was magpied completely from this book about Teddy Robinson, which I've recently realised it is an old puffin book. So that's pretty cool. So and although I've had a lot of different jobs, I've always I've always been writing. So when I worked in a shoe shop, it was a busy Clark's shoe shop, and in my spare time I used to in the evenings and the weekends I would write like a fake newsletter to make people laugh about the customers and the staff with like silly small ads and whatnot. And when I was teaching, I was writing plays for the children to perform, and working for the charities, I've been using a kind of persuasive writing skills. So yeah, I've always been into writing.
Katie, how about you?
Same as Jen, really. I've always been into writing since when I was very young too, and got my many diaries that I've got that are full of my ramblings from when I was mostly I did it when I was younger at primary school, and then I've got a lot from like 15 and 16, and they're mortifying. They're just I mean, that's kind of why I wanted to write from a younger age, because my diaries are all about drinking and boys, and very one-dimensional, to be honest. I'm quite mortified. I don't want to go back and slap myself around the face, but so yeah, I've always liked writing, and then I've always done blogs, some less successful than others. And then when I had my second son, I had a really tough time with my first son when he was born, and I had I got quite severe anxiety and wasn't able to sleep, and it really affected me much more than I thought it was going to. So when I had my second son, I was looking around for kind of blogs that talked about the realities of parenthood and how hard it can be being a mum, and I couldn't find any. So I decided to start my own to talk about and share all those kind of challenges that I had myself. And yeah, people seem to like it, and I think there's quite a lot of those kind of type blogs now, but at the time there wasn't really anybody talking about them. But anyway, I kind of quickly got not quickly, I've been doing it for 8 years now, so it obviously takes time to build a following. And often people say, oh, how do you get so many followers? I'm like, well, I just did it for years because I used to love it, and I didn't do it for any, it wasn't my job. I just did it for a hobby, and I did it for fun, and I just really liked that people enjoyed reading what I was writing. And then one day I decided to start draw some silly stick figure pictures as part of it, and that kind of quickly became one of the things that people enjoyed the most. So it went from there. And then I've written 3 books off the back of Hurrah for Gin, and people have always said that my humour is quite silly and immature, and that suggested that perhaps writing for children could be a thing that I moved on to, which I was delighted about, because that was always been my dream. So yeah, it's been I think it's been about 3 years since I started writing Lottie, actually, so it's taken a while to do that between other books and other projects, but yeah, that's how it kind of came about.
Lovely. I guess following on from that, do you want to, each of you tell us what your book is about and yeah, why you wrote that particular book? So Katie, do you want to start for this one?
Yes. So Lottie, as I mentioned in my diaries, actually, I felt like it would have been quite difficult for me to write about the teenage years, only because I really felt like all of my book was completely about boys, and so I wanted to write something that was a bit more to it. And when I was kind of looking at kind of all the different areas, I found there was quite a lot of books for younger and a lot of kind of teenage, but there wasn't that much that catered for that awkward tweenage period where you're where you're like 10, 11, 12 and you're going through puberty. Really, I don't think that many books talk about that in a kind of funny and reassuring way. So for me, that was the most awkward time of my life, and I remember hating it. I remember hating going bra shopping. I remember wanting and dreading getting my period, and whether you're going to be the first or last at everything. And then so I felt like I really wanted to talk to that audience, and do, like you say, "Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret." When I read that, I was like, "This is my book. This is what I'm going through," and I couldn't really find a kind of modern day equivalent. So it's kind of based on that. It's exactly the kind of same phase. So that was my aim, really, to kind of give kids that age something funny and reassuring to relate to.
Great. How about you, Jen?
Just going back to what Katie said, my daughter's in her age bracket, and she's absolutely loved Katie's book, so thoroughly recommend it. My book's a comedy too, but my book's written from the point of view of a funny and feisty kind of straight talking 10-year-old called Billy, who accidentally, but actually completely on purpose, uses a jotter that her parents have given her to practice her spellings to keep a diary, and in that she doodles and writes, usually, well, always actually, when she should be going to sleep. And Billy's kind of really good at making everyday things that happen at school and at home quite funny. And again, like Katie's, I think people will relate to it. They're really daft things, like wondering why words can't all be spelled exactly as they sound, and wishing a parents would buy branded crisps, and wondering how there could be somebody in the world who would eat a Kit Kat without snapping it in two first and nibbling all the chocolate off it, and all these kind of incidental and honest illustrated anecdotes and interactive pages and jokes and daft games ideas. They're all kind of knitted together so that the diary also tells a story, which is a bit of a mystery about a purse that's gone missing from the school staff room that Billy's determined to get to the bottom of. And it also touches on important issues as well, like accepting differences and not judging people too quickly, and thinking about what makes a family and how to resolve friendship difficulties. And I wrote it because I've always liked contemporary comedy, and I wanted to write a book that combined things that would engage a reluctant reader, so a lot of doodles and interactive stuff, with a story that included a family like mine, because my children have two mums and our family unit isn't often represented in this kind of funny fiction. And when I realised that my children wanted to see themselves reflected, and then when we chatted, and I realised that they really wanted all children to have access to a mainstream book where the main character has same-sex parents, but they just live in this normal life, and it's all the incidental, that's just incidental really to the story. I thought, yeah, that's the book I want to write, maybe to spark conversations about these topics that I'm covering.
Well, maybe could we ask you to both give us a taste, do a little reading, so give our audience a flavour of each of the books? Who would like to go first?
Pick me. I don't mind.
Yeah. Go ahead,
first,
then. You go first.
No, you go first. You're welcome to.
I go first. Okay. I'm going to read a chapter from near the beginning, and it's called Forbidden Snack. A totally amazing thing happened at morning break today. Layla had 2 actual, genuine, real-life Jaffa cakes for her snack. I couldn't believe my eyes when she showed me. "Hide them quick," I whispered, checking to see if the teacher was nearby. Now, I know this might sound a bit extreme, but since my school introduced this completely insane rule, we've had to be on our guard. School rules 456 to 458. 456, no hopping in PE. 457, transparent lunchboxes only. 458, morning break snack must always be healthy. Last week, Dale Redman had a cereal bar with the tiniest bit of chocolate on it confiscated. So, although they definitely contain oranges, I knew for sure and certain the Jaffa cakes would be considered highly illegal. Layla immediately stuffed them up a jumper and pulled me over to the big tree near the railings so we could figure out what to do. You should probably know that as well as being 100% BFFs, Layla Dixon and I always share snacks. We find it keeps morning break interesting. Well, as interesting as it can be now chocolate and crisps have been banned. I get the better deal most days, if I'm honest, as Layla's mum often packs her snacks like yoghurt-covered raisins, basically sweets, and cheese strings, basically toys, whereas I'm usually lumbered with things like plain rice cakes, aka cardboard, or slices of apple, brown by break time. We made a promise though, and we both keep to it. Unfortunately, Patrick North was already behind the big tree looking for worms. Patrick North is the biggest pest in class 5. "Hello, Lid and Bug," he said. "What are you two doing?" Patrick tells tales about absolutely everything. Once, and this is 100% true, he complained to Mrs. Patterson that I'd looked at him. So we knew we couldn't enjoy our illegal snack there. "Do not call me Bug," I shouted, before grabbing Layla's hand and running towards the girls' cloakroom. Layla's middle name is Imogen, and although Lid is nowhere near as bad as Bug, she's also banned people from calling her by her initials because that's what BFFs do. We stick together. When we got to the cloakroom, Daisy Muirhead and Farida Banerjee were there, practicing their 7 times tables in preparation for the test Mrs. Patterson had announced would happen after break. Seriously, who cares who can work out 7 times 8 the fastest? That's what calculators were invented for, as well as making words out of numbers, obviously. "Hi, Bug," said Farida. Farida Banerjee is desperate for the initials as your nickname thing to stick. She says her middle name is Anita. I bet it's actually Ingrid. "Stop calling her that," said Layla, distracting me from getting into an argument with Farida by showing me the time on her watch. It was getting seriously near the end of break time. This was becoming an emergency situation. I expect you're wondering why we didn't simply stuff the Jaffa cakes into our mouths and hope for the best. Well, I'll tell you. That, my friend, would have involved us breaking one of the extremely serious biscuit laws we developed during a completely crummy but mega marvellous sleepover last year. Biscuit Law 1, the cream-filled commandment, for things like custard creams. Thou shalt always remove the top layer and scrape out the cream with thy teeth. 2, the lick-it-off law, for things like chocolate digestives. Every last scrap of chocolate must be removed with the tongue before eating or binning the biscuit. The completely deconstructed charter, mainly for Jaffa cakes. Thou shalt endeavour to take it apart completely, saving the sweet disc of jelly till last. The code of removal, this applies to things like clubs. Without fail, thou shalt nibble off as much chocolate as possible before eating the remaining biscuit. The dunking demand. For anything dullish like a rich tea, thou must always dunk it, preferably in a large mug of hot chocolate. We're still waiting to hear back from the Prime Minister about these laws, but to ensure you're ready for when they become compulsory, I suggest you immediately ask an adult for one of each variety so you can practice. Anyway, back to break time. Our last option was the girls' toilets. It was mega grubby, to deconstruct our illegal discs of chocolatey, orangey, cakey, biscuity heaven in a toilet cubicle, but it was totally worth it. Jaffa cakes are ultra amazing, and swapping 3 wrinkly carrot batons for 1 disc of heaven was an epically excellent exchange.
That was great. Thank you.
Welcome.
I love the biscuit laws. Yeah. Katie, do you want to share yours book with
Yes,
us?
I will. I'm just going to start from the beginning and read a couple of entries. Wednesday, the 11th of August, day 19 of the summer holidays. Molly has only been gone for 27.5 hours, and no one seems to have any idea how much I miss her. It feels a bit like my insides have been ripped out, sloshed around in the washing machine, and then stuffed back inside again. My parents are being absolutely zero help. I guess being friendless themselves, they have no clue what it's like to have your BFF move all the way to Australia. They just say stuff like, "You'll make plenty of friends in no time, Lottie." Like, how old do they think I am? 3? It's not like it was in preschool, where you just bounce up to someone and say, "Let's do some gluing," and then bond instantly over a shared Pritt stick. People are mean out there. Here's another example of how they still treat me like a kid. We just had a drive-through McDonald's for tea as a treat to cheer me up, and Dad tried to order me a Happy Meal. I mean, what was he even thinking? I did manage to negotiate a Big Mac meal for myself, but the annoying thing was that it tasted horrible and dry and got stuck in my throat. Mum said that maybe it was because my taste buds were finally starting to mature, but really it's because my heart is broken. I didn't even enjoy my milkshake that much. It had already melted a bit by the time we got home and was more milky and less ice creamy than usual, you know. Then I got sweet and sour sauce down my favourite t-shirt and it felt like the final nail in the coffin. Anyway, with Molly off enjoying the sun and surfer boys down under, I decided to start writing a diary, and here it is. Ta-da! I hope it'll feel a bit like having someone to talk to over this long, lonely summer. I'm going to illustrate it too because I love drawing cartoons, and when I'm older, I'm going to be a comic strip artist for a newspaper or a magazine. I might as well get some practice in while I have nothing else to do. Here's a picture I did of my family. There's me, Dad, who does something boring to do with computers and is going bald, Toby, the disgusting nose picker, and Mum, who works in marketing. She's quite nice but obsessed with hoovering. Note, we don't all walk around naked. It's just that drawing clothes takes so long, and to be honest, I can't be bothered. I guess as parents go, mine aren't so bad. That's if you don't count them nagging me about my screen time 24/7. My grubby little 7-year-old brother is another matter though. Man, that kid is annoying. Which reminds me, if you're reading this, Toby, it's private property and I will get you. What else can I tell you about myself? I haven't told you about my hamsters yet, have I? Here they are. There's Professor Barnaby Squeakington and Fuzzball III. Sorry, I'm not very good at drawing hamsters yet. I've had these guys for about 8 months now. They live in my room and they're a bit noisy, but I don't really mind as they give some great advice. Sometimes I tell them about how bad my day was, and they just keep going round in their wheel and stuffing their cheeks full of food as if to say, "Don't sweat the small stuff, babe. There's plenty of bigger stuff going on in the world right now." And they're so right. They always make me feel so much better. It's best not to ask about what happened to Fuzzball first and Fuzzball the second, though. R.I.P. guys. So yeah, that's my life in a nutshell. I've been almost totally abandoned in this big, wide, scary world. In a few weeks, I'm going to start high school totally alone. Oh, and my name is Lottie Brooks, and I live by the sea in Brighton in the UK, and I'm 11 3/4. I guess you might like to know that too. Thursday, the 12th of August. I suppose you're wondering why I only have one friend, or maybe not, as pieces of paper don't really wonder about stuff. But I'll tell you anyway, as that's what you're here for, right? When I was 4 years old, I had to wear a patch to correct a lazy eye. I quite liked it at first. I used to pretend I was a pirate sailing the 7 seas in search of buried treasure, and I called myself Matey McLobsterlegs, which I thought was really funny. That all changed when I started primary school, though. I told some of my classmates about being called Matey McLobsterlegs, and the nickname stuck. Soon everyone was making fun of me. First it was my patch, then it was my clothes, then it was my freckles, then it was the way I spoke.
Mikey.
To get it right. There was one
it
girl,
was that talk with Emily's sister.
there was one girl called Eliza who had perfect plaque. Every day she was the worst. She spread lots of horrible rumours about me. Matey McLobsterlegs smells of wee. None of it was even true. Eliza made it up. Mum said I was potty trained by the time I was 2.5. I felt so lonely and confused. Why didn't people like me? Why did I have to be the only kid in the class with an eye patch? And how did Eliza get her plaits so damn neat? Then Molly joined our school and everything changed. I don't know what I'd have done without her. On the first day, she plonked herself down next to me with her Minnie Mouse lunchbox and offered me a What's-It and told Eliza with the perfect plaits to leave me alone. Molly was funny and confident, and she could have chosen to be friends with anyone, but she chose me. Look how cute we were back then. It was love at first, what's it? From the first moment, we were inseparable, BFFs forever. And now Molly's gone, and I'm scared about what I'm going to do without her. See, the other kids have stuff going for them, like being loud or sporty or drop-dead gorgeous. Me? I just go bright red when anyone speaks to me. I spend most of my free time alone drawing silly cartoons, and that's not exactly cool, is it? I also have the most mundane mid-brown hair in the entire history of the world. If I'm honest, I'm sure my hair's to blame for most of my problems. I'd do anything to swap hair with Molly, who's got lovely red curls, but the funny thing is, she hates her hair too. I don't know. Maybe we always hate what we've got. Mum says I'm beautiful, but you can't trust parents to be objective. She'd probably say that if I was an actual potato. It's all very well saying I'll make friends in soon, but what parents don't realise is that most people don't want to be friends with a potato. I mean, what have potatoes got going for them? I suppose they can become chips, and chips are good, but they don't really make for great conversationalists.
Both books are full of, the comic points through the text, through the illustrations. They are very funny. And when you're writing humour, I mean, how hard is it? And what do you have to think about when you're trying to find things that are funny for that age group?
I think funny is funny. I'm, if it's funny to you, it's often funny to a child. I take inspiration from what my children find funny. It's often exactly the same as what I find funny.
Yeah.
I've got a really daft sense of humour, and a joke's a joke at the end of the day, as long as you're not being too sophisticated. I think, funny is funny.
Funny is funny. How about you, Katie? What do you think?
I think it can be a bit awkward sometimes, because I think it's strange trying to be funny and then expecting other people to find you funny. It's a kind of funny thing to get your head around, really. But sometimes I think the more you look at stuff, the less funny it can become. So often you just step back and then have a reread in a week or so and can judge it. But I always know when I've done something that I think is going to really be funny, because that's when I'm laughing when I'm doing it myself without judging myself, going, oh, this is a bit weird. I'm like, no, this is good. So yeah, I don't know, it comes in, it's like waves though. Sometimes it can be really hard, and then other days I know what I'm doing and on the right road.
And do you test bits with your children to see if they do find what you think is funny?
I don't know. I mean, mine refuse to read my book, so they're embarrassed to hear anything I've got to say. They just think I'm a joke. Test it, and I don't really like to show people either. Yeah. I don't know. It's just worrying. Often it's at the point where if I get feedback, it's too late to go back anyway. So I don't really. But then obviously when it comes out, you're like, oh, is everyone going to hate it?
No, they won't.
I do. I do occasionally test, when I'm at an early stage, or we'll have a chat around the dinner table, and actually the children make up the jokes for me, and I think, oh, that's a really good one, I'll definitely be using that. Or something's happened, I think that one's going in.
I mean, for me, there were so many moments, and my sister, who's a teacher, she has read it, and we'd been talking about Bug particularly, and just some of the moments in it, like the food bank where, Billy suddenly realises the food banks aren't for you to pick a packet of crisps out of it. There are just so many different very funny moments, but alongside that, as well as being really funny, they're actually both books, aren't they, about friendships and about some of the worries that children have about those friendships and about fitting in and about life in general. And you do both deal with that in, a hilarious way, but in a very empathetic way as well. What do you hope children take from your books if they're, when they're reading them? Katie, you want to go first?
I think Lottie in the book is kind of based a lot around my worries and anxieties that I had at the same age, but she's very shy and unconfident, and then she ends up in a situation obviously where she's starting high school without any friends, and my oldest is about to start high school next year, and it is a cause of great anxiety for kids are moving up from being the head of primary school to being at the bottom of the pile again, and all of the kind of responsibility that you have to take on as well. It's all, you've got to get to school, you've got to deal with your own homework, so it's quite a big deal. And she's very shy and timid and stuff, and she thinks that the key, she's so worried about fitting in, she thinks the key is getting in with the popular gang and being popular, being accepted, and which is, I think, again, what we all I used to want, everyone used to want to be in the popular gang at school. And she quickly realizes through the course of the book that is not what makes you happy, that being popular doesn't make you a good friend. And so it's a bit of a journey of discovery, but I hope that people reading it will relate to a lot of Lottie's worries and realize that it's important to surround yourself with friends that like you for yourself, and it's always important to be yourself, and if people don't accept you for who you are, then they're not worth your time.
Yeah. And I mean, the bit that I loved about that whole worry about starting school is when she's talking with Liv, who's already in year 9, and there's the how not to be a loser at school rules that Liv tells her, and goes through all of this, and then she says, but don't talk to me at school because I'm in year 9 and we don't talk to year 7s. And that just perfectly encapsulates that kind of hierarchy in the school situation. For me, it did. So how about you, Jen? What would you like kids to take from your book when they read it?
Well, my main thing is I'd like it to be a book that people read for pleasure, to be honest, because I'm so passionate about reading for pleasure. But I would like children who read it to take away. I'm trying to normalise alternative families, and I would like children to kind of read it and see that lots of different family units exist in the world, and they're all perfectly normal, and they're all living these normal lives. It's not this big mystery about, oh, I wonder what it's like, they've got 2 mums or whatever. We're just quite boring and normal, just like everybody else. Also, Billy's really open and honest about herself, and I think that's something that perhaps like children to take away, that you can just be yourself, be out there. You're you, and you're good enough, and that's you. So be more Billy, maybe.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that's quite important. When kids are reading it, that they are able to relate to it in perhaps their own situations. But you do it in Bug in a really natural way. The fact that Billy's adopted, and the fact that she's got 2 mums, that's not what defines her as a character in the book.
No, true.
And that's
my intention, really, that this is a small part of me. Yeah. This is not what this story is about. This is just who I am. And also the other thing that I think the book I would like people to take from it is there's room in a friendship group for a new person. You don't be worried that this person's coming in to steal somebody. You can all be in the group together, and it can be fine. Don't be worried about that kind of thing.
Yeah, thank you. I think the other thing that was interesting, and coincidentally for both of you both wrote and illustrated the book, and actually I think there's less author illustrators writing at that age who will write and illustrate. How much fun was it to be able to do that, and were you kind of given free rein, and which came first, the text or the pictures?
We were just talking about this before we came on live. Me and Jen were just having a conversation about how we do that, and then I was saying that I do it in tandem usually, because I feel like the pictures are a big part of my writing. So if you took them away, often they kind of form the joke, so they're really quite important. And I tend to do everything together if I can, but it's just time wise and stuff. But yeah, it's fun. I like doing them. Obviously, I can't even draw minus stick figure pictures, so it's not about the the quality of the drawing. It's about getting across the silly situation and getting across the humour with the silly pictures more than the, you know, a lot of books, it's the illustration is just to bring it to life or to give something, you know, a lovely thing to look at for the person reading. So it's a bit different in mine.
I think Katie's drawings are amazing.
Oh, thank you, Jen.
And I'm not the best drawer in the world either.
Yeah.
My drawings are more like doodles and cartoon pictures, and I've really enjoyed doing it. I was so glad when Puffin said that I could draw the pictures, and that's been a really good part of the whole process for me. And I work slightly differently from Katie, because what I do is I write the whole story, and as I'm writing, I'll leave a little comment to say, a picture of a would be good here, and I'll do that all the way through. And the pictures do often form part of the jokes, but then I can get all that text sent off. Somebody can say, yeah, that's quite good. And then I've got a big chunk of time. So I have quite intense illustration time doing all the pictures afterwards. So yeah, slightly different.
It is, but fascinating. And actually both, you know, both books are written in a kind of diarised format, because in Bug, Billy is writing in a diary, and in Lottie, she's kind of writing her thoughts in that notebook. And I think the style of them makes it feel very current and very accessible, you know, to kids. So was that the reason you chose that kind of format for your story?
I tried doing. Oh, sorry. You go.
I don't mind, Katie. You go. You started to talk.
Sorry, but at the same time, I tried doing it as a chapter book, actually, because I was a bit nervous about doing a diary, because I thought, I don't know, I just thought, is it a bit predictable, you know, the drawings in the diary? But I just couldn't do it as a chapter book, actually. I just think the style of I like sort of snappy, quick jokes sometimes, and doing a diary and sort of being able to sort of analyse yourself, your thoughts and feelings, that worked a lot better. To the way the humour that I need to get across worked a lot better in that format. So I tried both, but the diary thing seemed to fit. I think it is quite a good way to write humour, though. So yeah.
My book was a full-on diary, actually, at first draft. So and I wrote it like that because my son, who was really reluctant reader, who really I wrote the first draft of this book for, those were the only kind of books that he would entertain. And because at the time I was only writing for him, and that's what he wanted, it was you know, a dated diary following a year, the first draft of it. So I've really enjoyed doing it as in this manner. It feels really personal, you know, and it's very informal, and that's my style, really. So that's why I did it that way.
Thank you. Both of you also have a female character at the centre of your story, and both Billy and Lottie are really well drawn, well-rounded characters. But on the surface, they're kind of knowing, they're confident, you know, and together. But actually, underneath it, they're both in their own way, you know, less confident, quite naive in some respects, and worry about a lot of things that on the surface you don't think they are worrying about. How did you want them to come across to the reader, and what do you want them to say as characters to the kids that are reading about them? Jen, we'll go with you this time.
Billy does worry about friendships. That's her main thing. She worries that she's going to lose her best friends to a new girl, and I think that does come across. But I wanted her to come across as a very open and honest and feisty character who isn't like bothered that she's a bit different from everybody else in a couple of ways, because she actually quite likes standing out, and that's part of her personality.
Katie?
I think I wrote Lottie kind of based on me, but then also kind of based on just almost everybody. Like, I think she's quite relatable, and most people could recognise a part of themselves within her. So it's that kind of, you know, trying to put on a brave front, trying to be brave, but actually inside we're all struggling. We're all thinking, we're all going through the same worries that we don't often talk about, or you don't often voice even to your friends. You don't want to say, oh, I'm scared about this, I'm worried about this. So it's, yeah, I think it's that kind of everyone at that age, really.
Yeah. And I was delighted to read that there's going to be a series of both books. So can you maybe give us a sneak peek into what's going to happen with Billy and Lottie in the next books?
Yeah, mine's a series of 3 currently, and all for the next 2 have both been written, and the second one I've also nearly finished all the pictures, because that's going to be out in August. And in the second one, Billy and her classmates are chosen to star in a television advert about school uniforms, and also through the book, a secret is being kept from Billy, which she's desperately trying to find out by her. It's being kept by her mums, and at the end of the book, that secret is revealed, and that secret that's revealed, which I'm not telling you all yet, that forms the focus of the 3rd book, which is out in January.
So have you written it yet? Where are you in terms of having an illustration?
With the 3rd one, the second one's nearly going to print, and the 3rd one, I've written the whole story. Yeah, it's really good. It's a really it's very, they're all funny, but the 3rd one's particularly heartwarming as well. I think it's my favourite actually so far, and I've written all the words, but I've not started the pictures yet for that one.
Katie, how about Lottie?
I'm jealous of Jen because she's way far ahead of me. So I'm doing the second ones now. So I'm sort of, in the middle of, I don't know. But it basically just carries on, and it's about her best friend Molly at the end of the book moves back from Australia, and it's about Molly, she gets a place at Lottie's school, and so it's about how she integrates into the school and the friendship groups, and Lottie's ongoing kind of romance with a boy called Daniel, various bits and bobs like that. Still right, I just make it up as I go along.
Me too.
Talking nicely to Harriet and Sophia to let me have sneak peeks as soon as possible. Okay. Before I open it up to the audience, there's one question, because Empathy Day has been very much on my mind. The Empathy Day will be coming up on the 10th of June. And this year, it's asking people to walk in someone else's shoes or in a character's shoes to kind of get to understand that person from a different viewpoint. If someone was walking in Billy or Lottie's shoes, what would you hope that they would learn? Katie, would you like to?
I think it kind of just go back to what we've already said, really. Just they'll be walking in her shoes, hopefully learning that it's okay to be yourself, and that it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter what people think, unless they're your friends, and your friends will support you through thick and thin anyway. And it's really not worth trying to pretend to be anything you're not, because it will massively backfire on you.
Yeah. Jen, how about you?
Yeah, similar really. They learn to be, it's good to be honest, and it's good to be open about who you are, and they would learn hopefully that having a different family unit than what might be considered normal is actually very, very similar, and it would be that's my biggest hope really, that all these children who may never see or be aware of families who are much different than their own will kind of get to see that and see, yeah, it's actually really similar. There's not much difference actually.
Thank you. Let's have a look. There's some questions coming from the audience. So a question for both of you from Caroline. Would you say you aimed at a young female audience with these books? And linked to that, do you think there is an appeal to boys?
I didn't aim at a young female audience. I tried my best to aim at boys and girls. I hope, and I've had feedback to say that boys have enjoyed it. So there are lots of boy characters in it, and Billy is quite a rounded individual, and there's a lot in it that would appeal to boys. And I wrote it initially for my son when he was a bit younger. I'd say my book is for both.
Yeah. Katie?
I get so many people questioning me, actually, just saying, is it for boys and girls? And I think it's lovely, obviously, if boys want to read a book about girls, friendships and puberty. But it is, I think, you know, in all honesty, I think it is more targeted towards girls. But as I say, if, you know, your kids let kids read whatever they like. So if they show interest in it, then brilliant. It's obviously, you know, it'd be great if you're a boy reading about how, you know, girls' thoughts and feelings as they go through puberty and having a better understanding of it. So yeah, but I would say that the vast majority of people who would pick it up and read it are probably girls. Yeah.
And another question that's come in from Nicola. She says, hi Jan and Katie, would your books be old enough for year 7 and 8 students? I'm a high school librarian and I'd love to add them to the library stock. What do you guys think?
Old enough?
Old enough, I mean, you know, that they would be suitable for year 7s and year 8s to enjoy.
Yeah, well, I don't know, mine's perfect because it's about a girl who's in year 7. So I think that, you know, it's would be most suited sort of like year 6, 7. Or, you know, obviously anyone can read it, but, you know, that it's that key period of transitioning, just starting high school for the first time. So anyone who's just done it or about to do it is
yeah. And actually I've had a few librarian and teacher colleagues saying, because of lockdown and kids being off school for such a long time, more of them are kind of emotionally younger than perhaps they would have been if they'd been in school all this time. So I think they're perfect for year 7.
I think Katie's book is perfect for the lady who's asked the question. And my book, it really depends on the reader, doesn't it? Because everybody's different and everybody enjoys different books. My son would definitely have enjoyed this when he was in year 7 and 8, but for some people they'll say no, it's not for me. But I hate putting an upper age limit on a book. I think there can be a lower age limit on a book, but upper age limits are not something I go with, really, because people enjoy lots of different things, don't they?
I would very much agree with that comment. I mean, as a sort of an objective outsider as well, as a librarian, I think that both would work equally well in a primary or in the secondary. As you say, you both said it's really about the individual, children. And Caroline and Nicola have said thanks both to great answers. So, do we have any other questions or comments from people in the audience? Let's have a little look. I think no, I think that's all the questions that we have. Or maybe I'll ask you one more. That what do you think, as writers and as readers and as parents, what do you think makes a good story and a good book? Jen, we'll go to you first.
I think if a child will read it, it's a good story. So my favourite story books and authors and things like that are all the ones who have grabbed my son and my daughter and kept them entertained, because that's what I want as a parent. I want my children to be reading and I want them to be enjoying their reading. So I don't think it matters what it is and what's it about and what genre it is. If the children like it, that's a good story, and that's good for me, and that's all I want as a parent.
Spot on. Katie?
I think like Jen has already said about her, I think it was your son who was a reluctant reader, but both mine have been reluctant readers, and I've massively struggled. And it was my oldest is 10, and it was only a couple of years ago that he ever started reading. It wasn't having to force him, but when I see him pick up a book and the key is also in the daytime.
Bedtime.
Sitting on a chair reading a book in the daytime, that is I know that's absolutely excellent, because it's got him. And I used to love reading, and I don't know if it's slightly more girls are more into it, or maybe it's the time as well, but I lived opposite a library, so I read loads when I was a kid. I loved it. And then so it's difficult, I think, being a parent who loves reading, having reluctant readers, and you're desperate for them to find that joy in a book. And so when they do, it's amazing. So it can be anything. And my kids are massively into humour, so they love they like the Wimpy Kid, they like my youngest is 8, he loves Dogman. They love anything really silly, funny, toilet humour. Yeah, all of that really.
Yeah. Actually, we had another comment come in from Caroline saying she loves how Katie demonstrates that illustration doesn't need to mean good at, you've got to be good at art. You know, many children seem to get put off, and you know, she's right in the sense that, you know, you said you can only do stick figures, but actually those stick figure and those kind of caricatures actually work perfectly with the story and really add to the quality of the story. The same as the pictures in your book, Jen. You know, they somehow the blend of text and illustration really adds to the accessibility of the reading experience, I think. So
my daughter has been reading Katie's book, and I saw on her desk the other day, you know, she'd copied the pictures of Lottie and the stick figures, and it had really inspired her to think that, you know, it gave her some confidence. I can do this.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, and Amy says, both books sound great. Thanks so much for a wonderful evening. I have a nearly 13-year-old daughter, and I'll be buying them for her. And I'll be reading them first, of course. I agree on the no upper age limit for all books. So some positive comments. Oh, Caroline says Katie's children sound like they might like the Wilf series.
I've not heard of the Wilf series. Actually, I have to look that up.
So yes, I think that's everything from the chat box. So and we're coming up to 8 o'clock. So we're sort of beginning to run out of time, but before I kind of bring the event to a close, and thank you, just to remind people that you can order a signed copy, or better still, both of both books from the Spalding's order line. I always have to say, if you don't want us to keep your details on file so that we can let you know about our future events, then please email me and I will, remove you from my list. And I just need to say a few thanks really to bring the evening to a close. First of all, to Penguin Random House for asking us to host this launch tonight. So thanks, Harriet and Sophia. Thanks to Bev and Naomi for making sure that Zoom behaved as well as it can do. Thanks also to all of you great folk out there for coming tonight and for supporting us by booking authors through us and coming to our events. But finally, a special, really huge thanks to Jen and Katie for such a great evening. And I can only say, in all honesty, if you want some cheering up and you're in need of laughter, curl up, treat yourself, buy both books, curl up with both books and either a gin and tonic or a glass of wine. Best medicine ever. And I guarantee you will fall in love with Billy and Lottie as characters. As I said at the very beginning, this is a celebration of a launch of 2 fab books. So at this point, can you switch on your mics and cameras if you're not feeling too shy? And can you raise your glasses or your mugs of tea and join me? Congratulations.
Hello, it's so nice to see faces.
Thanks for being here. 2 great books and a great evening. So cheers, everyone, and smile because Bev will be screenshotting. So I have got a glass in my hand, but it seems to have disappeared behind. So cheers, everybody. And
cheers. Thank you for coming,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Jen and Katie, do you want to grab your books quickly for a screenshot?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Lovely.
So I hope you've enjoyed tonight, everyone, and hope to see you again at our next event. And please go away and tweet like mad if you've enjoyed tonight, and persuade people to come along next time and to read Jen and Katie's book. Stay safe, everyone. Keep well. Take care. Bye.